All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe button because we're breaking down fights every week. And today, man, we've got a lot to talk about. Because I'll be honest, I was not expecting Brendan Allen to be this dominant against Reinier de Ridder. Like, not just beat him, he broke him straight up. I don't remember the last time I saw a fighter just quit on the stool between rounds in the UFC. That's how bad it got. You could tell from the end of that third round when de Ridder could barely get up off the mat and make it back to his corner that the man was done. The body language said everything. Let's back it up a bit though. From the start of the fight, de Ridder's game plan was exactly what we've come to expect. He came in doing what he always does. Close the distance, get that body lock, drag you down, and smother you with pressure on the ground. But credit to Brendan Allen because he came prepared and had all the right answers. In the first round, yeah, de Ridder got his takedown and got top position. That's his world. But here's where Allen impressed me. Even though he was on his back, he was calm. He was patient. He didn't panic. You could tell he drilled this over and over. He made sure de Ridder couldn't advance position to the point of actually threatening a finish. So while de Ridder technically won that first round on control time, it was only partial success because he wasn't doing real damage and he wasn't progressing like he wanted. Then the second round hit and everything changed. From that point on, from the second round all the way through the fourth, it was the Brendan Allen show. Allen started stuffing the takedowns, reversing positions, and landing some nasty ground and pound. Every single time de Ridder tried to grapple or get back to his bread and butter, Allen just flipped it around on him. And those reversals weren't just about position, they were about momentum. Every time Allen reversed, he made him pay. Hard elbows, sharp punches, pressure, and pace. That's what broke Reinier de Ridder. You could literally see the difference in intent. When Allen was on top, he was doing damage. When de Ridder was on top, he was barely touching him. And let's talk about that for a second, because that's the clearest difference between the two in this fight. Allen was effective. He was dangerous. Every second he had top control, he was making it count. De Ridder, on the other hand, was throwing these light, almost hesitant punches, not to hurt Allen, but just to get him to react, maybe make a mistake and open up a submission attempt. That's fine in one championship where the pace is different and the gloves are smaller, but in the UFC, at this level, you can't just fish for positions and not deal damage. And the crowd noticed it. The crowd was actually booing whenever de Ridder was on top. That tells you everything, because people could see he wasn't doing anything. It was just position hunting, and meanwhile, Brendan Allen was beating him up. And here's where my long-standing criticisms of Reinier de Ridder really come into play. Look, I've said this before and I'll say it again. De Ridder does not have a championship-level gas tank. Now, most of the time, he gets away with it because he finishes fights early. He gets that first-round submission, looks dominant, and we all move on. But whenever he has to stay in there past the midway point, that gas tank always starts to fade. You could see it against Whittaker. He started strong, but by the later rounds, he couldn't even get takedowns anymore. He was basically a sitting duck at range. The only reason that fight didn't look that bad cardio-wise is because Whittaker is a striker. So de Ridder wasn't getting reversed or beaten up on the mat, but against someone like Brendan Allen, a guy who's also a strong grappler, that gas tank issue becomes painfully obvious. And that's exactly what happened here. By the third round, de Ridder's arms looked heavy, his transitions were slow, and he had nothing left in the tank. You could just see it. The man was done physically and mentally. And then there's the other thing. De Ridder's just too one-dimensional. If he can't dominate you in the grappling department, he doesn't really have a plan B. His striking is okay at best. It's functional. It's there to close distance. But once he's forced to stand, he looks uncomfortable. And in MMA, especially at this level, you can't be that predictable. Because once people figure out your one trick, it's over. You could tell Allen had studied that de Ridder film hard. He knew exactly what to expect. The body lock attempts, the level changes, the slow pressure, and he had the antidote for every piece of it. Now, don't get me wrong. I'll always give de Ridder credit for what he did to Bo Nickel. He humbled the kid. He made Bo realize that All the hype in the world doesn't matter if your skill set isn't deep enough. That was a reality check. And for that, I'm thankful. But outside of that, de Ridder himself hasn't convinced me he's championship material, not in the UFC, not at this level. And honestly, time isn't on his side anymore. He's 35 years old. That's not ancient, but it's not young in MMA years either, especially for a guy whose whole game relies on physical strength and endurance. He's closer to the twilight of his career than his prime. And after this fight, I think it's fair to say that the UFC middleweight division might be a little too deep, a little too well-rounded for de Ridder to make a serious title run. Meanwhile, Brendan Allen, man, this was a statement win. He showed maturity, composure, and a high fight IQ. He stayed calm under pressure, executed perfectly, and turned a potential grappling war into a one-sided beatdown. He didn't just beat Reinier de Ridder, he broke him. And that's something we almost never see in MMA. Anyway, that's my full take on Brendan Allen versus Reinier de Ridder. Huge props to Allen. That was a career-defining performance. Let me know what you think. Do you agree that de Ridder's one-dimensional style has finally caught up with him, or do you think he still has a path back with some adjustments? Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's talk about it. As always, if you enjoyed the breakdown, hit that like button, subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.